What's up, my fellow fans? So, yeah, as you can see, I am wearing the Wolverine cap because it's time for my commentary for X2 X-Men United. Now, before I begin this commentary companion, just want to remind you that X2 X-Men United is currently available to watch on these platforms. You can stream it anywhere, or if you're old-fashioned like me, you can also watch it on DVD or Blu-ray or a video cassette if you're old-fashioned while listening to the commentary companion. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. To me, my X-Men. Welcome to Commentary Companions. I'm your host, Tony Garcia, and today we will be looking at X2, X-Men United, released in 2003. Of course, I don't blame you if you might nickname it, X-Men 2. I know I will. And speaking of X, there's that glowing X in the Fox logo. And finally, the first X-Men movie to feature the official Marvel logo after being featured in Spider-Man and Daredevil. Now, how about that? Now, after the success of the first X-Men movie directed by Bryan Singer, a sequel was inevitable. So, Bryan Singer got to work on an X-Men sequel with David Hayter. A lot of the actors returned. Most of them returned to reprise their roles, as did a lot of the crew, including the costume designer that I mentioned and the makeup artist. Of course, whereas in this sequel, this time, the composer for X-Men 2 is this time John Ottman, who was also the editor for the first X-Men movie. John Ottman was also an editor for the first film, and, well, he's been editing a lot of Bryan Singer's movies up until Bohemian Rhapsody. And, well, who knew that this guy could also be a music composer and an editor. Also, this intro sequence is totally cool, and I think the first time we hear the X-Men theme song in a way. For an intro, that is. Now, of course, this isn't the actual White House in Washington, D.C. It's a movie replica of the White House, and, well, for the most part, it looks pretty good for a 2000s movie replica of the White House. I hope one day I might tour the White House, but certainly not when the Orange Buffoon is still in office. Maybe when he dies. Oh, that's nice. Now, President McKenna is a fictional president, and President McKenna is portrayed by Cotter Smith, who is also a stage actor, a television actor, and a film actor. Cotter Smith has appeared in K-9, starring Jim Belushi, St. Elsewhere the TV show, The Twilight Zone, specifically the 1980s reboot, Law and Order, Oz, but not The Wizard of Oz, if you catch my drift, Alias, NCIS, House of Cards, and The Post, directed by Steven Spielberg. And that is one uncanny human disguise. Oh yeah, now we have the coolest sequence in the film, and let me tell you, this is one hell of a way to start an X-Men movie. I'm not gonna lie, the music that's played, I actually became familiar with it, not because of X-Men 2, but because of that one Pixar short, Jack Jack Attacks. But damn, it's used perfectly for this scene. The action, this is a great way to introduce Nightcrawler, who also made his comic book debut in Giant Size X-Men #1. How appropriate is that? Whammo! This bitch empty. Yeet. I just hope you're okay with me saying yeet. I just hope I don't sound like a moron saying that. Good thing they shot the wall and not the poor some other poor sucker. I'd hate to be that sap. Now, of course, uh, X-Men 2 is written by several people. Returning screenwriter David Hayter, and also Michael Dougherty, who you might know best for working on the Godzilla sequels and also Trick or Treat and Krampus. And the story was done by Zach Penn. Now, Zach Penn did a lot of uncredited screen contributions for Men in Black and Ants. Ants with a Z, you know, the first DreamWorks animation film. Now, while Men in Black is technically Marvel because, well, Men in Black was published by Malibu Comics and Malibu Comics was owned by Marvel, X-Men 2 was the first time Zach Penn ever received writing credits for a Marvel movie. Now, how about that? What a nice view of Alkali Lake. I actually like how eerily quiet this is. Now, is that a wolf or just a plain good boy? You know, a dog. Doggo. Doge. Oh, here's a funny fact. During filming, Hugh Jackman's sister visited the set. As a joke, she was made up in Jackman's full Wolverine costume and makeup and walked around the set. Apparently, she was very convincing as Hugh. Bryan Singer was not aware that it was not Jackman in the Wolverine costume, and he commented of her work during shooting that Hugh is acting very strangely today. Oh, that's mean. I think she had that coming. Eh. Shouldn't there be a no touching sign? Also, here's an interesting fact. Halle Berry dropped out of Geely to reprise her role as Storm. That is a wise career decision. Too bad she made an even worse decision by appearing in Catwoman. Ironic. Oof, that's not good. Yeah, it might be a foreshadowing of the Phoenix. Translation: I have a bad feeling about this. Now, X-Men 2 is greatly inspired by the graphic novel God Loves, Man Kills, published in 1982, written by Chris Claremont and Brent Anderson. And of course, X2 marks the first time actor Aaron Stanford portrayed Pyro. He was chosen for the role of Pyro because the casting was quite impressed with his performance in the movie Tadpole. Now, Pyro made his comic book debut in The Uncanny X-Men number 141, published in 1981, created by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. It's really cool knowing that Aaron Stanford has pretty much reprised his role as Pyro, not only for X-Men 3, and also for Deadpool and Wolverine, nearly 2 decades later. I mean, that's really awesome. It really shows his love for the character. I like that. And I kind of like that, Bobby and John are kind of friends in this version, which kind of makes his betrayal all the more heartbreaking. But I guess you could say he's always been a hot-headed dick. Now, the Frozen people, a lot of them are played by mimes, who are often used to standing still when necessary. I guess it adds up and really makes it more authentic. Nope, there's no way you can freeze people that instantaneously. Now, fun fact about Professor Xavier's wheelchair. Now, the wheelchair from the first film was bought by a lawyer who also worked for the same law firm as Sir Patrick Stewart's attorney. When production began, the studio realized they had no chair anymore. So the lawyer rented it back for the studio, as Stewart said in an interview, for a significant sum. His words, not mine. Yep. As the Calorine once said, "You were just leaving." Now, most of the exterior shots of the Xavier Mansion were recycled from the first movie because there was no budget for them. Now, the script underwent rewrites to give Halle Berry more screen time as Storm after she won an Oscar for Monsters Ball. Isn't that interesting? And so we have the appearance of William Stryker. Now, William Stryker made his comic book debut in the graphic novel God Loves, Man Kills, as I mentioned before. I mean, it was the 5th graphic novel for Marvel Graphic Novels. And so we see Mystique as Senator Kelly. Now, whereas Stryker is a colonel in this movie, in the comics, William Stryker is a former sergeant and an extreme Christian televangelist. And I say Christian in quotation marks because, people that use hate and bigotry with their faith to justify said bigotry, they're not real Christians, not in my opinion. But anyway, so in the comics, Stryker is an extreme Christian televangelist with an extreme hatred for mutants, using his faith to justify his bigotry. And, he believes in genocide and all that. I mean, he's just an evil man. Like a hate-filled Christian. That's not the Christian way. Now, of course, William Stryker is portrayed by Brian Cox. Now, the reason that Bryan Singer cast Cox in the role of Stryker was because, he was a big fan of his portrayal of Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter. For those who forgot, Anthony Hopkins was not the first guy to portray Hannibal Lecter. That honor goes to Bryan Singer from the crime thriller Manhunter. Honestly, I would totally recommend watching Manhunter. It's a really great adaptation of Red Dragon and severely underrated. It's kind of funny that, the original Hannibal Lecter is in X2 because, the sequel would be directed by the director of Red Dragon, the sort of kind of remake to Manhunter, although it is kind of a reimagining. And, it's because of CinemaSins I became familiar with Airplane 2 and the Striker joke. If you stop and think about it, Stryker's surrounded by 2 mutants. Also, it's nice to note that they brought back the original actor to portray Senator Kelly, even if he's simply, Mystique in disguise. Ooh, what a sick burn. I mean, yeah, it's interesting, in the movie he's a colonel, but the fact that he was a former sergeant, I guess, wait, did I say sergeant? Hold on. Yeah, I write down my facts. Yeah, he's a former sergeant. Ooh. Ooh, kissy kissy. And so we have the first appearance of Daniel Cudmore as Pyotr Rasputin, a.k.a. Colossus. Oh, I think Rogue would recognize that motorcycle anywhere. That chopper. Is it a chopper? What? I could be wrong. I'm not a motorcycle expert. Huh. The Iceman. Talk about a cold handshake. Now, Hugh Jackman was given a nutritionist to get in shape for his role as Wolverine and gained 20 pounds. 20 pounds of muscle. And I really do like his hairstyle in this film. It's good. Ugh. Wolverine the babysitter. How undignified. Now, following the success of the first X-Men film, Fox granted Bryan Singer a $50 million budget increase for this movie. Also, X-Men 2 is the first time that Sir Patrick Stewart and Brian Cox have collaborated on a project together. I kind of wish that that Logan and Scott had more of a friendly camaraderie. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, Logan used the motorcycle, and it's only fair that he, that he fill up the tank. Also, Magneto's glass prison. Here's an interesting fact. Bryan Singer and the rest of the crew were adamant that the entire cell was completely made from glass and plastic. Absolutely no metal. And, well, I mean, that's a very specific detail that I have to admire and respect. Although I do wonder if Ian McKellen did X-Men after, filmed X-Men after Lord of the Rings, because you have to remember that the entire trilogy of Lord of the Rings was, filmed back-to-back entirely, all at once, with certain scenes probably filmed out of order. And it makes me wonder, did Ian McKellen, do Gandalf and Magneto in between shoots? I mean, before or after? I mean, it must have been difficult. But it must be clear that he must have filmed X-Men 2 right after doing Return of the King, possibly. I'm not sure, but I do know this. Return of the King and X-Men 2 were both released in 2003, same year. How many months apart? I'm not sure. Pardon me while I go check. I mean, I'll still be here. Okay. Return to the King release date. December 17th. And someone on DeviantArt actually drew that. Logan thinking he's a 6-year-old girl singing "Nobody's Perfect." That's actually pretty funny. Yeah, so X-Men 2 was released on May 2nd, 2003, several months before Return of the King was released on December 17th. That adds up. Makes sense. Honestly, that's a pretty cool perspective of Cerebro. Couldn't think of a less sinister color for the mutants. Also, the mansion used for the school also appears as Lex Luthor's mansion in Smallville. And before that, it was the mansion of Billy Madison. I guess the mansion has range. Genre range, that is. Because I believe the exterior of the mansion was also featured in the radio silence horror comedy Ready or Not. And he's praying the rosary in German. Which is true. Wolverine the babysitter. Womp womp. Yeah. Now, the Blackbird X-Jet was redesigned and increased in virtual size from 60 feet to 85 feet. Originally, Ray Park was to return as Toad and get into a fight with Nightcrawler. However, schedule conflicts prevented this. And I believe that is the last we see of Senator Kelly after that. But here's another fun fact. Bruce Davison and Brian Cox were born only 27 days apart. But apparently, Cox's character indicates that Senator Kelly's at least 20 years his junior, but, they're the same age. And here's another fun fact. Shaquille O'Neal badly wanted to be in this movie and actively campaigned for a role. After Steel, I don't think so. Now, the script went through 27 drafts. And now, David Hayter and Zach Penn wrote separate scripts for this movie, and the best elements were combined to make the screenplay. This is a relatively common practice for summer blockbusters. Michael Dougherty and Dan Harris were then brought in to hone the final script. Two of their major contributions were the removal of a scene set in the Danger Room, which would later be reinstated for X-Men 3, and the presence of the Sentinels, which would later serve as the Menace in X-Men Days of Future Past. Oh, yeah, I bet you Mystique remembers Cerebro. And what's that? A copycat Cerebro? Yep. Mystique knows this is not good. Yeah, with the nonverbal language, he's saying, this is bad. Also, fun fact, whereas in the first X-Men film it took 7 hours to apply the makeup for Mystique on Rebecca Romijn, it was now 5 hours to put the makeup on. I mean, that's definitely an improvement. Oh yeah, she's like, panic, panic, panic. Yeah, I didn't realize this was Kelly Hu until much later when I was all grown up. I recognize her now, because, it would be hard to not recognize Kelly Hu. Also, I hope you like the way Kelly Hu said that line, because that is her only line of dialogue. I kid you not. What the? I have a twin? I bet you that's what that guy's thinking. It is a good sight gag. Oh yeah, Boston. Nature laughs. So I couldn't read the rest of the graffiti. But it does feel appropriate that Nightcrawler and Storm appear in this film together, especially since they both debuted in Giant Size X-Men #1. Same writer, even, the late Len Wein. Also, Sabretooth was planned to return, this time as William Stryker's bodyguard. However, the part was rewritten into Anne Reynolds, Stryker's bodyguard from the comics, who would have granted Lady Deathstrike's mutant powers and adamantium claws for this film. But then the role was filled by Lady Deathstrike herself and given longer fight scenes so that the movie would have more action. Do you know what happens when a blue guy's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else, except, lifted by Jean Grey. Now, Chuck Austin, who has written extensively for the character of Nightcrawler, revealed on the DVD that he was asked if there was anything he knew about the character that nobody else did. He suggested that, just like the character has 2 fingers on each hand and 2 toes on each foot, he also had 2 sets of genitals. Didn't expect that. Now, before Alan Cumming was cast as Nightcrawler, Neil Patrick Harris was also considered for the role of Nightcrawler as well. Kind of funny because, Alan Cumming was considered for the role of Peter Parker in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man film, and Neil Patrick Harris would then voice Spider-Man for the 2003 CG series that loosely follows up with the Sam Raimi movie. Even funnier, both Alan Cumming and Neil Patrick Harris played Doctor Who villains, Harbingers, best known for their sinister laugh, Ha 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 ha! What were the odds of this? I mean, both of them playing Marvel characters and playing Doctor Who villains. And I guess it's true what they say. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a Doctor Who villain. That's kind of funny. Now, if I recall correctly, hold on. It take to apply the makeup for Nate. Now, usually, for Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler makeup in X2, it took approximately, allegedly, 4.5 to 5 hours. And apparently, Alan Cumming hated that makeup. Also, Kurt Wagner is also the name of the composer of tunes like Life's Little Tragedy and The Daily Growl. A lot of Kurt's dialogue contains several references to the composer's song's lyrics. Obviously. Yeah, why would a school serve beer? That's pretty irresponsible. Although, why they can't refrigerate the soda, I don't know. Now, originally, Nick Fury from Marvel Comics was supposed to appear in the film, but that didn't happen due to Marvel owning the rights. Also, I love that little gag of Bobby just cooling down the soda. It's pretty funny. Now, let me look up a fact about Cyclops' sunglasses. I'm almost there. Oh yeah, the sunglasses worn by Cyclops are Oakley pennies, although they look very similar to the glasses he wore in the first X-Men film. They are in fact a different model, with Oakley Juliet's appearing in the first movie. Both were modified with blinders around the lens. Oakley was also responsible for manufacturing the visor which Cyclops wears, and in some shots, Oakley's logo, a horizontally stretched O, can be seen on the parts of the visor that cover Cyclops' ears. Diddly squat. Now, Bryan Singer insisted that the writers do proper research on what would happen if a dam was breached. Remarkably, they found plenty of information about that on the internet. Still, it is interesting how two former Bond villains and one former Bond girl appear in X-Men 2. Alan Cumming and Famke Janssen appeared in GoldenEye, which was the first appearance of Pierce Brosnan's James Bond. They were supporting villains, and Halle Berry appeared as the Bond girl in Die Another Day. Now, the Sentinels were supposed to appear as part of Stryker's attack on the school, and concept art of them was included in the movie's DVD release. Not only that, but, the Danger Room was also supposed to appear, but due to budget constraints, that was impossible. In fact, Angel, another founding member of the X-Men, was also supposed to appear, but, he got the cut due to budget restraints, as did Gambit. Isn't that a shame? I mean, technically, it was done against his will. He's not 100% at fault. Now, this was production designer Guy Hendrix Dias' first movie. Rude. Now, Yuriko Oyama made her comic book debut in Daredevil number 197, published in 1983, created by Dennis O'Neil and William Johnson. I didn't realize that, she debuted in Daredevil first, so technically, it's interesting how a lot of these X-Men characters debuted in non-X-Men movies. If you look up the address for Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, 1407 Graymalkin Lane, Salem Center, Westchester County, New York, on Google Earth, you will find it is a real address. However, instead of a grand mansion, you'll find 2 large barns and some other farm structures. That's anticlimactic. Oh, looks like he's going to sleep after all. Oh, he can smell it. Also, X-Men 2 was also, we got an appearance from Kitty Pryde, played by another actress this time. But I could definitely tell it's her due to, phasing through walls. I mean, how can you, you'd know it's Kitty Pryde if she phases through walls. Now, X-Men 2 was also the last film for which Sir Patrick Stewart received top billing. Brian Cox went on to play Dr. Joseph Bell in The Strange Case of Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle, and Sir Ian McKellen played his fictional counterpart Sherlock Holmes in Mr. Holmes. And I do believe that screaming girl is Banshee from Marvel. Let me look. But yeah, that's a good way to disorient everyone. Like I say, version of Banshee is used. I thought it was. Oh yeah, this is the first time we get to see Wolverine go into his signature Berserker Rage. Oh yeah, okay, so that girl that was screaming, it wasn't Banshee, it was Siren, who's a legacy character of Banshee. Now, Siren also makes a cameo appearance portrayed by Shauna Kane, a child actress. And now Siren made her comic book debut in Spider-Woman number 37 in April of 1981. And Siren was created by Chris Claremont and Steve Leialoha. I feel a little woozy here. But yeah, I mean, Siren is the daughter of original Banshee Sean Cassidy. Time to use his arms. I was going to say make a use your head joke, but, Colossus doesn't seem like the kind of guy to headbutt unless it's absolutely necessary. But yeah, this is the first time Daniel Cudmore played Colossus. Kind of wish he gave him a Russian accent. Peekaboo. Of course, these guys couldn't knock. Now, Marvel published 2 comic book prequels tying into X2, centering on Wolverine and Nightcrawler, as well as an adaptation of the film written by Chuck Austin and illustrated by Patrick Searcher and Paul Tutrone. Now, with Wolverine's Berserker Rage in this, they actually had to tone down the Berserker Rage to ensure the film would keep a PG-13 rating. But dang, is it awesome. Actually, a nice, that's a pretty smart exit. Now, Stryker is an amalgamation of several characters. Not only of William Stryker, but also Henry Gyrick and Professor... trying to remember his name. Hold on, scrolling up because I'm looking this up on IMDb. Professor... X-Men, Professor Austin? Trying to remember. Ooh. Things got cold. Yeah, I believe Professor Hudson. That's what this Stryker is a combo of. Gyrick, Hudson, and, Stryker. All making for a very sinister villain. I could be wrong, though. Uh-oh. I'm gonna say... Excuse me. Yeah, I think they just exploded real ice for that. That's cool. Stryker is not happy. Ugh. If I had a nickel for every time Wolverine stole one of Cyclops' vehicles, be it a car or a motorcycle, I'd probably have 3 nickels. I think he did that on the animated series. But man, why does Logan have to be so disrespectful to Scott's vehicles? I mean, I'll give Cyclops credit. He has good taste in vehicles. Because the last time P confronted Stryker, Stryker put an adamantium bullet in his skull. And I swear he looked like a different actor back then. Wolverine dog tag. And so we have a foreshadowing of, I think it's pretty funny that this film features Bye 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 from NSYNC, and then, 21 years later, Bye 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 is featured in the beginning of Deadpool and Wolverine. Quite well, might I add. Now, Wolverine's dog tag in X2 is 45825-243-T78-A. Isn't that interesting? Still despicable. Whoop. Stryker hit the jackpot. Now, in Stryker's files, there are several notable names, including Remy LeBeau, aka Gambit, and Kevin McTaggart. But under Maximoff, there are two names that aren't shown, but it's most likely the twins, Pietro Maximoff and Wanda Maximoff, aka Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, respectively, the children of Magneto. And of course, this is also technically the first appearance of Beast in a human form, but we could say he's a distant relative of the Beast we see played by Kelsey Grammer in X-Men 3. Yeah, it's enough that he has to hear about mutant crap. Now, Bryan Singer also wanted the beer to be full of fake foam to ensure that there'd be to maintain continuity, because real foam in beer can really disintegrate quite fastly depending on it. Ooh, I wouldn't trust that. And of course, this is Rebecca Romijn in her without any makeup. She's hot, isn't she? But it's kind of cool that, over 20 years later, she would appear in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Or some Discovery. Interesting detail on the Velcro, because, it makes sense that this security guard would have to wear Velcro, given his job, being a guard for Magneto, because a metal zipper would be quite a fatal accident, if that makes sense. But yeah, this disguise sequence is quite cool. Really does hold up. Iron is good for your blood, but that seems like an overdose of iron. Yep, sometimes it's a collar, sometimes it's a helmet. Really depends. The re-education could also be a metaphor for conversion therapy. The fact that William Stryker's son is a mutant only furthers his sinister causes of extremism and mutant genocide. For good reason. If you think the death of William's wife sounded brutal, in the comics, after Marcy Stryker gave birth to Jason, William snapped Marcy's neck for being a mutant. Yeah, it's pretty much like putting a pit bull on a leash. A feral pit bull. Great deduction, Sherlock. It was obvious. That's where you come in. Pretty much leaving him lobotomized and catatonic. Now, Jason Stryker also debuted in God Loves, Man Kills. But in some iterations, Jason Stryker is known as William Jr. It usually depends. I mean, he would get the name Jason Stryker in 2013 because, movie. But the way Stryker does what he does to his son is so cruel. Just so cruel, turning him into a shell of his former self. It's so sad. He's just a victim of unfortunate circumstances. I guess you'll take that as a no. It's actually kind of cool how in Bobby's room, a lot of his posters relate to ice-related things. Signal's jammed. Little privacy. Sugar. The first kiss for Bobby. I like the detail of Rogue just letting out a little ice breath. Careful, Bobby. Otherwise, yeah. Yeah, I bet he's thinking, worth it. I know how you feel, Bobby. Beer. Dude, be nice to the cat. Apparently, they put kind of a tasty treat for the cat for him to lick on the claws. Not Professor Howlett. Then again, he has amnesia, so he probably doesn't know that his full name is James Logan Howlett. Uh-oh. For now. But yeah, that guard looks so hungover. Shouldn't have had 2 beers, bro. I see you're wearing that egregious aftershave. But I gotta say, this might actually be the smartest escape plan on Mystique's credit and Magneto's credit as well. It's pretty much probably one of the best escape scenes for a Marvel movie. I mean, using tricking him into consuming metal and using that as an escape method. That is so smart for Magneto and Mystique. And pretty creative. I mean, that's a very creative kill. Because you never know if she's a blue chick in disguise. But yeah, this is definitely one of the best scenes in the film, I think. And a great moment for Magneto. Although I think once I do my commentary for X-Men First Class, I might say what I think are my favorite moments of Magneto. Oh yeah, the master of magnetism, mother cluckers. Direct hit. Yeah, that's his brother saying that. Now, the whole Bobby admitting that he's a mutant to his parents could also be seen as an allegory for coming out as gay. Replace mutant with gay and it makes perfect sense. That's, especially since, ironically, in the comics, Bobby Drake is now gay. Now, is that coffee or tea? I would have been amazed by that. Especially with the, how did they do that? And the cat wants some. I think it's cute the way the cat just licks it. The cat likes it. I mean, it's nobody's fault. I mean, it's a 1 in a million, you know? But still, Bobby Drake's brother is a piece of shit in this scene for ratting out his brother like that. It's like, shame on you, man. What some brother you are. Take a break. We can go downtown to the city. Yes, I've been watching a lot of Hamilton. Now, I do believe, I believe Kurt is praying the rosary in German, which makes sense. I believe it's the Hail Mary. I can definitely recognize that because since I've said I had to do plenty of rosaries in church, it's a calming meditation. I agree. Which I think might be a lot. Well, yeah, a few. Oh, isn't that nice? Yep, I just want to say this discussion between Nightcrawler and Storm, it might be one of my favorite scenes because of I really like the philosophical discussions that Kurt and Aurora have together. It's very well written, and it's really interesting to see the two differing ideologies, but it really shows that they're getting along and bonding. I like it. It also kind of reminds me of some of the philosophical scenes from Day of the Dead, which I think is one of the most underrated horror movies of all time. Like I said in my unboxing video of Day of the Dead, if you're a zombie fan and you haven't watched it, you should. Also, yeah, if you tried not being a mutant, that's definitely the equivalent to have you tried not being gay? It's perfectly written as well. Perfect allegory. In my opinion, at least. Yep, be speedy. He's got a bad feeling about this. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Yeah, Ronnie. You're the worst, Ronnie. Yeah, kind of hard to do that. Ooh, police brutality. Well, Pyro's not exactly known for being calm. Kind of known for being a bit of a hothead. Flame on! Oh, wait. Wrong Pyro character. Oh, yeah. Like I said, Pyro is a hothead. I bet you some of them were just reluctant to be here. I mean, some of them are just doing their job. You know, good men just following orders. Yeah, now I'm thinking of Professor X's line from from X-Men First Class, and yeah, looks like Pyro's wearing Vans. You know, I believe I had Vans just like that. You know, black and white checkered. I was lucky to find them in a size 13. Very comfortable. I think Wolverine's head just spat out the bullet. You know, if I had a nickel for every time Rogue touched Pyro and imitated his powers, I'd have 2 nickels, at least on screen. Because I'm remembering that one episode of X-Men the Animated Series that showed her origins and her using Pyro's powers to, like, create a flame bird. Yeah, good job babysitting, Logan. Yeah, you want some of this? That's what I thought. Also, it's pretty sad, you know, seeing the way Bobby's family's just looking down on him and he feels so betrayed. And so, yeah, that's the last time he ever sees them. Pretty sad. And I guess, yep, you're not invited to my wedding if I ever get married. Oh, the look at him was like, wow, no, excuse me? Wow. Let me look at the, now I need to look up the German phrase for, excuse me. Yeah. German equivalent to, excuse me? I was like, oh, Entschuldigung? Entschuldigung? Yeah, sorry if my German is terrible. This is an interesting manipulation tactic. You know, Jason just pretended to be a child in order to gain Charles's trust. Works perfectly. And they're not very friendly signals. No, sir. Or no, ma'am. Or else. Yeah. We'll talk about escalation. Ooh, that guy's mad. It's like, down now. It's like, hey, at least you're dealing with the X-Men. If it was the Hulk, well, you'd be dealing with an angry target. You know, target angry, target angry! Yeah, she told you to hang on. And I love that Kurt's just doing a sign of the cross, because he is scared witless. I mean, yeah, Storm. She could be quite the weapon if when she needs to. But yeah, Storm really gets to shine in this movie. With all the tornadoes going berserker and crazy. Ah! But one of the pilots is certainly persistent. Yep, my work here is done! Uh-oh. Of course, Jean's going to attempt to use her telepathic powers to, you know, try to avert them. Now, originally, Jean was supposed to turn into Dark Phoenix, like there'd be foreshadowings of it, but I guess this is the closest we get to the foreshadowing of the Phoenix. That should be fun to talk about. Uh-oh. Fire in the hole. If only someone who can fly could get her. Oh, right. Kurt. Nice save, Kurt. So I like how the plane almost heals practically. It getting all fixed up. Well, if it's not Jean, then who could it be now? Oh yeah, Magneto. That's a pretty funny line. Ironic because, normally Rogue can fly. Now, unlike the first movie where Rebecca Romijn wore contact lenses, this time Mystique's yellow eyes are rendered digitally. Also, I really like this interaction between Rogue and Nightcrawler that's almost familial, which is funny because they're technically foster siblings in a way. Now, Magneto's helmet was subtly redesigned from the first film, as Sir Ian McKellen found the original helmet to be quite uncomfortable. I mean, yeah, he did kind of say. He did say that earlier. Yep, that's on me, Queen. That's true. He and Hank and Charles all worked on it. Yeah, sure. He has a look that says, "What's that supposed to mean?" It's like, Logan, it's not all about you. It never is. Busted. Now, the exterior of the Striker's base underground is actually the interior of an abandoned Sears. Remember Sears? Rest in peace, Sears. Yeah, you didn't think to look underground? Ya himbo? Yeah, can't you respect that man? That's a good burn. It's like, for the most part, Jean loves Scott, no matter what. I actually like this exchange between Mystique and Nightcrawler. It's interesting because in the comics, well, Mystique is Kurt's biological mother. And yeah, which that's why I say that technically Rogue and Kurt are foster siblings because for a time before she joined the X-Men, Rogue was Mystique was Rogue's foster mother for a time. Yeah, so that's why, and I really like how in X-Men the Animated Series there was like a brother sister bond between Rogue and Kurt. It was sweet. It was nice, and unlike Graydon Creed, Miss Rogue welcomed Kurt with open arms when it comes to the sibling love. Ooh, talk about the scars. Fooled you. Yeah, I mean, Mystique has needs. I think Logan wants you to get off. Yeah, can't blame Logan for that. She's thinking, party pooper. Burn. But. Ooh, that's not nice. That look is like, oh, yada. Although I do wonder if Rebecca told Ian a joke, which explains the laughing. And he's not far off. Once again, Ian showing elegance. Ugh, once again, Stryker proving he's an asshole. Ooh. Shows how genocidal he is. And that would be bad. Oof, burn. And once again, they think of a very smart break-in move. What's this? What's this? There's Logan coming down. what's this? It seems he surrenders. Yeah, okay, I better stop. It's like flood a trespasser. That's ruthless. Oh yeah, you know it's Mystique in disguise, because who else is going to overact like that? Because Mystique is theatrical. I don't think so. Thinks Mystique as she starts to escape. Like I said, this is a very smart breaking in. And did she flip the bird? I swear, Mystique flipped the bird. Even me. And I just love this this part where, you know, where Stryker, Mystique disguised as Stryker blows a kiss. It's like, I bet you Brian Cox had fun doing that. You know, I have to give Brian Cox a lot of credit for, you know, he does a very convincing American accent, and he's Scottish, so props to him. I'm sure Mystique is thinking, the things I do for love. Okay, maybe not love. But you get the idea. But yeah, in X-Men, God's Love, Man Kills, well, God Loves, Man Kills, it even has the X-Men making a truce with Magneto because they see Stryker as a common threat. You know that a situation is serious when the X-Men have to settle their differences with their definitive enemy, Magneto. That's a big deal, even if it is temporary. Yes, sir. This actually is quite a smart illusion. Can't believe Charles is being duped so easy, but it's interesting. Between the first two X-Men films, Patrick Stewart was finishing his final Star Trek appearance in Star Trek Nemesis. I mean, well, Star Trek Nemesis would be the last Star Trek movie to be released in theaters before J.J. Abrams rebooted the franchise. And interestingly, Bryan Singer also makes a cameo appearance in Star Trek Nemesis. But yeah, Nemesis was at the time the official last appearance of Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard before he returned nearly 2 decades later for the Picard TV show on Paramount Plus. Kind of interesting, you know? Of course, like a lot of people my age, I became familiar with Jean-Luc Picard. I became familiar with Patrick Stewart not because of Jean-Luc Picard, but because of Professor X, if that makes sense. Yeah, Magneto has a look that says, all right, fine. Yep, he disappeared. Only temporarily. Now, apparently, Kelly Hu had to wear prosthetic nails for the silver nails. They were actually glued onto her fingernails. And it's a pretty cool detail. And the way she, cracks her knuckles to really hide her oh so long claws. Although it would be kind of funny if someone drew, Deathstrike combining Deathstrike doing a thumb war with Sabretooth. I wonder who would win. If Sabretooth and Lady Deathstrike were to do a thumb war, who would win? The question is, would either one play fair? Also, I like this detail of Jason having heterochromia. Not so subtle, are you? Also, interestingly enough, the actor playing Jason is only 7 years younger than Brian Cox. It's kind of funny. Oh, let's hope that doesn't bite you in the arse. Finally, Cyclops makes his return. Probably the nicest thing Gene's ever done for Magneto. I like that line. Now, originally during this fight scene, Cyclops was going to blind Jean, and aspects of it were filmed, but, it never really made it into the official final cuts. Oh yeah, Jubilee. Not really making much of a significant impact, but, she's there. Yoo-hoo! Scotty, where are you? Here's Scotty! This causes her to phoenix out. Was that a growl I heard? Oh, damn. Looks like the dam is suffering some damn damage. Damn it. Even Stryker and Yuriko are thinking, what the damn was that? Oh, wait. It's leaking. Oh, damn. Yep. Oh, damn. This is not good, damn it. My leg! Oh, that's nice. My leg! Yeah, this ain't right. Oh, damn. This is bad. Man, this is psychedelic. Yeah, sorry. I'm filming this while watching the film on a portable DVD player because I'm old-fashioned like that. It's quiet in here. Too quiet. I like the comparative differences between Logan's bones and Yuriko's bones. Also, a fun fact, in the flashback scenes with, Logan at Weapon X and the adamantium being encased in his body, some of the two particular surgeons are actually portrayed by the screenwriters in a cameo appearance. Isn't that interesting? Whether which one's Zach Penn and which one's David Hayter, I'm not sure. Or is it Michael Dougherty who makes a cameo as the surgeon? Either way, two of the screenwriters are the surgeons. Oh, and here's another fun fact. It's kind of a funny one. During the scene where, Hugh is in the nude, apparently James Marsden's mother came to visit the set, and after the scene was filmed, apparently all the ladies were, who, including crew women, were just saw him there, and they were all like, including James Marsden's mom, they saw him in the nude, and they were like, woo! Just happy to see him in the nude, because, Hugh Jackman is a handsome man. Until I realized, you're not that special. Now, normally in the comics, Yuriko, aka Lady Deathstrike, is an enhanced cyborg. Ooh, that ain't right. Now, Yuriko would make her comic book debut as Lady Deathstrike in Alpha Flight number 33, published in April of 1986, created by Bill Mantlo and Sal Buscema. Lady Deathstrike would get an upgrade thanks to Chris Claremont and Barry Windsor Smith in Uncanny X-Men number 205, published 1 month later in 1986. So, she debuted as Deathstrike in April of 1986, and the upgraded Deathstrike would debut in May of 1986. And I do find it interesting that the late Dennis O'Neil co-created Yuriko, and he also co-created Batman villainess Talia al Ghul. I mentioned this because Marvel and DC's joint imprint, Amalgam Comics, combined Talia al Ghul with Lady Deathstrike to create Lady Talia. Lady Talia debuted in Dark Claw Adventures number 1. Now, Dark Claw is an amalgamation of Wolverine and Batman. And Dark Claw Adventures was meant to be like an imitation of the Batman Adventures. And the Batman Adventures is a tie-in comic book that's meant to tie into Batman the Animated Series, which makes a lot of sense. So it makes sense that Dark Claw Adventures would be the equivalent to like Batman the Animated Series. It's like if Dark Claw got an animated series. And I do think that Dark Claw Adventures was quite creative because it introduced various versions of these amalgamations. Not only did we have Lady Talia, but her father was Ra's Apocalypse, who was a combination of Ra's al Ghul and X-Men villain Apocalypse. Like I said, quite interesting and creative. Which is funny because Rogue is usually rebellious and free-spirited. Yeah, Rogue is thinking, I can't even with him. But yeah, this was basically my first introduction to Lady Deathstrike. I do think her animated appearances are far more interesting because they're more faithful, as are her appearances. But I gotta say, the way Logan defeats Lady Deathstrike is actually very creative and quite cool, using the adamantium against her. It's like the hot adamantium against her, and then she just oozes out adamantium, and that is gross and gruesome for a PG-13 movie. And then she, drowns due to the hard adamantium, and I like that clunk sound. It's good defeats, but I do believe Lady Deathstrike does deserve better, especially since she's one of the most definitive foes against Wolverine. Magneto, come out to play. Magneto, come out to play. But that is so cool. Oh yeah, that helmet definitely looks more comfortable. That's not good. Uh-oh, that's not good. Now, during this mind attack, apparently... Now, remember when I mentioned Beast? Now, the human Hank McCoy was supposed to be revealed, was supposed to transform into Beast because that human form was like a disguise. And, Professor X's Cerebro attack would have undone that disguise. Which is kind of ironic, although it's never seen on screen. I mean, elements of the whole Hank McCoy disguising himself as a human without us seeing his blue appearance would later be used in later sequels like X-Men Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. I mean, it's nice to note that this idea didn't go to waste. But yeah, it's very smart that Eric put on that helmet. Yeah, not much help you could be, Pyro. Excuse me. Oh, that little smug smirk as he taps his helmet. Logan's got to look at his... That was not cool. Now, originally, Magneto was going to just save Charles in this scene, and that would be the end of it. But but then the writers realized it would make better sense for not only Magneto to leave Professor X in his vulnerable state, but also to continue his little near attempt to kill all humans. But this idea of Magneto and Mystique manipulating Jason into manipulating Charles into killing all humans with Cerebro makes is perfectly in character for Magneto and Mystique. Well, poor Jason, practically a puppet for both Magneto and Stryker. Never free to make his own choices. I mean, I do feel bad for him. Surprise! Ooh, that's not fun. Did he stab him in the chest or the armpit? To be on the receiving end. I mean, technically, in the prequel, he did. Although, technically, she was being used. Ooh, the way he's twisting those claws, that ain't pleasant. What could that be? Why, could that be the dam that Cyclops and Jean accidentally busted? Oh, damn. I think it just might be. Yeah, the dam's bursting at the seams. Quite the manipulative tongue. Yeah. Yeah, what is it? So, yeah, Logan basically told him to go yuck himself. At least the copy of it. Humans. Everyone! Well, he is a colonel, so of course he'd know an escape trick like this. He was probably trained for it. Oh, suddenly, I'm feeling an unpleasant telepathic headache. Ah! I'm just kidding. I'm just playing along. But still, that's gotta be unpleasant. Yeah, that must be quite a headache for President McKenna. Yeah, that would be bad. I actually like that line. It's a very good warning. Boom. That's quite a successful attempt. No, she's not. Exactly, Storm. That's ruthless. That is so sassy. It's interesting, there are three of these X-Men actors have played Doctor Who villains at one. Well, Doctor Who villains, well, except for Brian Cox, because well, he would play Doctor Who creator Sidney Newman. Meanwhile, I mentioned Alan Cumming playing Lux in the recent Doctor Who episode, yeah, otherwise known as Mr. Ringading. And also, Sir Ian McKellen voiced the Great Intelligence in an episode of a Doctor Who special. And they look at each other, it's like, let's bring him in. He'll make an excellent addition. A fiery addition. To quote Kylo Ren, "Traitor!" Yeah, eventually Jason can't focus on his illusions if he's too cold. Ooh, I don't think Nightcrawler's having a good time. And Jason's like, all right, uncle, uncle, uncle. Oh, damn. It's rupturing. Well, like I said, a lot of the special effects people and writers had to look up how a dam can rupture, and there was a lot of information on the internet. Quite reliable information, might I add. Like, let's get out of here, dudes! Poor Jason. And he's just dead. But then again, he was a shell of his former self, so I don't know if it was really living, if you ask me. Uh-oh. He is like, nope. Ugh. Imagine if they did. Either way, that Could have been a lot more fatal. It's like, the bursting dam's like, but that's not all. Yep, Magneto took it. Womp womp. Surprise! Another happy landing. But I bet you Rogue's like, I am never doing that again. Well, what's that in the distance? Quite a predicament you got yourself into, Stryker. Oh. Oh, creature. The kid's like, excuse me, I have a name, asshole. And Logan non-verbally says, go yuck yourself. Like, and Stryker wasn't kidding. Give him tongue. Now, the scenes in Alkali Lake were filmed in Alberta, Canada. Now, isn't that interesting? The hot-headed traitor. But I don't think Logan's surprised. And neither is Rogue. Uh-oh. Bad timing for the Quinjet to pretty much lose power. I actually do like this nonverbal expression that Famke Janssen expresses, because it's like she knows what she has to do, and if it means saving her practically family. Pulling a Spock. Oh, that's good. Oh, damn, you better fly. She won't let you. I would if I could, but I am not able. He's telling the truth, he is not able. But this really does show how perfectly OP she is. OP good. So yeah, like I said before, I would if I could, but I am not able. He's telling the truth, he is not able. Live long and prosper. Huh, you're glowing, Gene. Of course, this is quite the foreshadowing for the Phoenix Saga, and also the Dark Phoenix Saga. But I don't think water can snuff out a phoenix. And so we get some admittedly good acting from James. I mean, he's in denial, bargaining, anger. It's like everyone is just. A lot of them just can't believe she's gone, but she is. And so, Scott is in depression. But everyone's giving good nonverbal acting, showing how sad they are that Jean's gone. I mean, yeah, that'll totally last. But she sacrificed herself to save her friends. Like a true hero. And I also have to give Alan Cumming credit for doing a very good Scottish accent. It's really good. I'm just gonna say it. My favorite performances of Alan Cumming would have to be his performance as Nightcrawler here in X2, but also his voice performance as the titular horse in Black Beauty. If you haven't seen the Black Beauty movie starring Alan Cumming, you should. It's a very underrated film and very nice. And Alan Cumming gives a wonderful voice performance as the horse. He makes the character sound very believable. Totally recommend Black Beauty. Yep, I do wonder what the rest of the speech would have sounded like. Hello? Is anyone, can anyone hear me? Anyone? Anyone? It's like, what's that guy? Was he munching on popcorn while frozen? I bet that's pretty awkward. But I do love this shot of, when the X-Men suddenly make their appearance as Thunderbolt and Lightning start striking. That is so badass. I mean, really awesome. Guten Tag. Well, forgive me for not standing. girl named Kitty Pryde. And somehow Mystique will be captured off screen. Those are some good lines. Oh yeah. And you're live. I think. Imagine what it was like for all the viewers who were watching us. Like suddenly, would that cause would it cause it to be temporary off? It's like, we're sorry, we're experiencing technical difficulties. And now the president has an interesting choice. Still a better president than Trump. Also, here's another interesting fact. In this final scene between Charles, Cyclops, and Logan, I mean Scott, you get the idea. Well, in this scene between these guys, Hugh is actually wearing a wig because he's got some extra hair. The reason he's got more hair than usual was because at the time, after filming had officially wrapped up for X-Men 2, Hugh Jackman then got the part of the titular vampire hunter in the 2004 action horror film Van Helsing, directed by Stephen Sommers. And he grew a frickin' mullet for that scene. But then there were reshoots for X-Men 2, including this ending scene. I mean, they really wanted to make sure that the scene was very secret. And because of the reshoots, by that time, Hugh had grown out his mullet, and so he had to wear a wig to look like Wolverine. I mean, I didn't know this back then, but I know it now. But like I said, they wanted to keep this ending so secret for X-Men 2. They wanted to make sure that it wasn't revealed, that they various novelized adaptations of X2 had to be were pretty much had a lot of alternate endings, so you wouldn't know what would happen in the movie. Kind of reminds me of the various alternate endings that occurred in the Clue movie. Kind of clever, if you ask me. And it's funny that the movie starts with Magneto reading The Once and Future King, and then it ends with Professor X just discussing the very book. Yeah, won't be the death of me. Yep, called it. Well, that is a nice subtle form of foreshadowing, you know? And I really like how the movie ends with Jean Grey narrating the opening monologue that Charles had narrated at the beginning. And it makes sense to signify that Jean Grey isn't 100% dead, and that she will be back as the Phoenix. Sadly, not the heroic Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix, but pretty decent foreshadowing, and I actually like the silhouette of the Phoenix in the water. And that was X2, X-Men United. After looking back on it, over 20 years later. It's like the last time that I had watched it, I was a kid back in 2006, and I watched it after watching X-Men The Last Stand, and looking back at the film still holds up to this day. I mean, yeah, I can see why it's often considered one of the best sequels in the X-Men franchise. It's an improvement. I mean, they take out what didn't work and improve on what did work, and they really go 100% while trying to tell a very mature storyline, and I think it works very well for the film. And I do think that X2 has better jokes, and I do like the philosophical discussions between Nightcrawler and the other supporting X-Men characters. It really does work, in my opinion. And of course, the makeup was done by Gordon Smith, and if I'm correct, hold on. But yeah, Gordon Smith, as you can tell, did the makeup for not only pretty much for the first two X-Men films and The Long Kiss Goodnight. I believe I mentioned that in my Commentary Companions episode of the first X-Men film, and it's nice to see that he returned for X2, and he does an amazing job with the makeup for Mystique and Nightcrawler. And but yeah, like I said before, I do believe that X2 really does hold up. It's definitely one of the better sequels of the X-Men franchise, and it's definitely mature and mature in the right way, and it has a lot of good comedy, and it's the stakes are raised. It's very good in my opinion, and I really did enjoy watching it again, because it's definitely I definitely like it for its comedic elements and such, and I love the foreshadowing of Bye Bye Bye. I love that it was reused for Deadpool and Wolverine. But yeah, that's my commentary for X2, X-Men United. Hope you enjoyed listening to my commentary of the film, and I hope you, hope you listen to my other commentaries. I'll be doing another Disney movie for Commentary Companions. You'll never guess which one, although if you saw my posts on the community posts on YouTube, you might know. But anyway, thanks for listening to my Commentary Companion for X-Men 2. Be sure to like and subscribe. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.